I mean, I don't feel like I chose hip hop as much as I feel hip hop chose me.
If you don't evolve, you die. Being able to adjust with technology and the sound is very important, because at the end of the day, you're not gonna win.
That's why I love being told no, because it forces you to be creative and adapt in the best way possible and create something new that they wasn't even thinking about.
It's combining the technology with great art.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what's going to prevail.
And when you ask me how I feel, I'm feeling great. New crib, new money. You ain't better, you scared, you funny. We count blessings from the floor to the ceiling. My homie hit me and he asked me how I feel, I'm feeling great.
Thank you all so much for hanging out with us today in Brooklyn, New York. We are here with leaders in the music space, the geniuses at the intersection of culture and music. And I'm excited we get to talk about this thing we all love so much and how we all see the future moving. Tell me about when you knew music is what I want to do. I want to be in this space. What was that moment where you're like, there's nothing else?
There was a rerun of a TV show that was before my time called WKRP in Cincinnati. And there was one of the actors, he was a DJ, he was black, he had the afro. And then he's like, we got the new one from Earth, Wind and Fire, After the Love Is Gone. And then he played it.
A good
and
one.
I can remember just being a kid and the music hit me. And then the transition from the intro to the verse and to the chorus. And I asked my dad, I said, come here real quick, come. What's this? He's like, son, that's Earth, Wind and Fire. This is classic, this and this and this. And he was like, but this is back in the day. And at that time, my godmother had given me, as a gift, a Fisher-Price record player. And
You had one too?
And the records I had were like kids' records, like Thumper the Rabbit and all that other stuff. So I begged my mom to take me to the record store to buy me that Earth, Wind and Fire LP. And that was like the beginning.
I bet they were happy to do that too, because that's what they came up on too. So to see their offspring listening to what they listen to, was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get this one.
Yeah, it was crazy. You know, my family's, they're Jamaican. So music was a big thing with my pops. Like he lived close to where the Marley family lived back in Jamaica. So like, there was a big thing for him, music. So it kind of got passed off to me.
Nice.
So it was crazy.
Kind of the same for me. I grew up on TRL, right? So I was watching, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and Cher. And as a rapper, that's not usually what you hear rappers say they get inspired by. But my first favorite song was "Believe" by Cher, right?
Sing us a little bit.
Do
Piff.
you believe?
Exactly.
But it was the first time I heard like auto-tune being, I didn't know it was called auto-tune, but hearing auto-tune being used in that kind of way, kind of as a 5-6-year-old made me look at music in a different way, like saying that, you can be as creative as you want to be. And I always dabbled into the performing arts, but that did it. But also me being Jamaican as well, going to the bashments and with my mom when I'm not supposed to be there, but seeing my uncle spin records and like get the party going, it kind of showed me that there's a performative element as well too, and I just always gravitated to it. There's no like really crazy, I want to do this for the rest of my life, but it was like, I gravitate towards this naturally. This is something that I'm always into. So that's how.
Awesome.
For me, yeah.
It's a lot.
A lot?
It's a lot. I think everybody's
Dougie, are you about to break the rules and tell us 5 things? I want to hear all of them.
No.
All of the lot.
Well, I kind of feel a little bit different because, my family's from the Caribbean too, from Trinidad and Barbados. So one of the things that happen is you hearing music in your house all the time. When you're raised in a family where music is, the centerpiece of everything, I think that there's an influence that happens with you that you either love it or you want to do it. There's something that happened. And if you're talking about families from the Caribbean, there was always sound crews. You had this sound crew, that sound crew. You hear the big speakers outside. a lot of people don't know hip hop started from the foundation of this platform.
Yeah.
So when we did jams outside, a lot of those were done because of the, the basic principles of the way it was done in the Caribbean. So for me, growing up, I mean, I don't feel like I did hip hop as much as, meaning I chose hip hop as much as I feel hip hop chose me. I feel like it kind of naturally came to me by just one day. It was a friend of mine. My father used to move their equipment from party to party, and he had a little nephew, his little cousin down there. And he was down there messing with the echo chamber. He was up there messing with the turntables, and I was walking by and the speakers was out the window in the brownstone, and I heard it and I said, yo, this sound crazy. And they was playing, I forgot which joint, maybe Dance to the Drummer's Beat or something like that. And I heard it and I said, damn, that shit's rocking crazy. Yeah. So I walked by and I went right into the house without even being announced, because he had the door open, the speakers, and then I seen him on there. Yeah. And all of a sudden he said, you wanna try it? And he gave me the mic and I started messing with it, and it was the echo chamber, and I said, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
And that was it. And from that point, moving forward, I think it always stuck with me. And as things started to unravel and, as you go on your journey, I think that that's the thing that really made me know. I think that there's something in you that makes you know this is yours. When I got into the music industry, my career took off so young that I had no choice. My career took off when I was 17. 17, wow. 16, 17.
Crazy age.
Yeah.
It's a good age.
It was actually, if I say it technically, I was at Harlem World when I was 14. And then at 15, Harry Belafonte had me set up to do Beat Street. And then after that, 16 is when I made the show. And Lottie Dottie, and 17 is when it came out.
Okay. Oh, we about to come right back to that.
Yeah.
As soon as I get Nicole's story.
I'm calculating the dates.
I'm ready to come into that one.
So it's interesting that you all talked about your Caribbean backgrounds. I come from a Caribbean Latin background on my mom's side too. So similarly, music was always around.
Yeah.
My mom was always playing salsa music, and she was a music fan. My father was a music fan too. So they were always buying music, buying records. So it was just always in the house. And I remember my mom's friends, they would throw salsa, there'd always be a live band, people would be dancing. So music was always around. I was always inspired. It always was part of our life, big life moments, but I didn't know I could work in music. And the odd thing with that was I played instruments as a kid too. Yeah. I started out playing the violin, then the piano, and briefly the flute. Okay. But it never occurred to me that it could be something that I'd do with my life and my career. It wasn't really until later in life when I was in college and, I was trying to figure out what do I do with my life? And I was having a conversation with another student. They were telling me about a class they took in the music industry, music business major, at our school, and it was a class taught by a lawyer named Don Passman.
Wow.
Of course, I know that lawyer. Yeah.
So I was like, it sounded, they were so inspired. It sounded so interesting. I went and looked for the book that he wrote. Everything I need to know about music.
Everything you need to know about the music industry.
And when I read that book, it literally blew my mind open, because it laid out every aspect of the music business, every career. And I finally found something where I felt like I relate and I can connect this and I could see myself in this. Yeah. Because I'm a little bit of an introvert, I couldn't imagine, I never imagined myself as a performer. And I didn't really know how to translate, being a creative in music. But when I saw the law side of it, I was like, this is me. Yeah. This is me all day, every day. And then I just went on that path. And it was nothing else.
One of the things we talk about in our industry a lot in technology is you build a really big company when you're non-consensus and you're right? When you go against the grain and it's the right thing the right decision. A lot of people go against the grain and it doesn't work.
Right.
So you created, the original human beatbox.
Right.
What were people's first reactions to that? Because it wasn't something they had seen before. Was it an immediate hit, or were they side-eyeing you like, what is this?
It was actually a mixture of both. It was a surprise. When I was at my DJ's house, Barry B, his mother was in the other room because he lived in Lincoln Projects. And the rooms are like this, they're next to each other.
Okay.
So he was changing records, and I just started doing the beatbox, and his mother came in and said, "That was a nice beat that I just heard right there," because she can hear the volume from the other room. He said, "Ma, that wasn't no beat, that was him." So when she said that was him, she didn't really know what he meant. But so she said, "Oh, but it sounded good, it was nice," She was just, encouraging us. And then he said, "Yo, you should do this outside at the big park, at the Jam." He said, "And you should call it the Human Beatbox." I said, "I'm not doing that." I said, "That's ridiculous." I said, "I just do this when I'm walking home and stuff like that." He said, "No, you should do that." He said, "I've never seen nothing like that." So then after that, he pushed me a little bit. Then we was outside and I did it. And when I did it, the crowd lost their mind. Like they was like blown.
Yeah.
It was like the first time that they seen something like that. So the word spread. So, and it was hard for people to believe that it was me. You know what I mean? Because it was like 6, 7 different things going on at the same time. So, and it wasn't something that when I was doing it, that people didn't know how to really explain it. But that was the whole thing about hip hop at the time. Because when you take the turntable and you're going like this and you're just cutting this one little piece together, or you're on the mic and now you rhyming over this, or you break dancing and you making your body do different things, or you writing on the wall in this unusual style of writing. It was just, now here's this fifth element. This is something that it's the human spirit, you know what I mean? So I think that it was so shocking that's what gave it that special push, and then it was unique.
Yep.
And then when I was doing it, it was only me. I was the beginning of this style. So sometimes, you need that little push from a friend, and sometimes you have to, you just have to have the courage to take a chance.
Yep.
But if you don't take a chance, it's very difficult for you to achieve what you want to achieve. So I took the chance. I had my one cheerleader, Barry B, and the impact changed hip hop forever.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Forever is an important word here, because music that stands the test of time is a game changer. And we know that one of your songs, one of the most sampled songs of all time.
And reference songs too.
Yeah.
For so many people. How did it feel? And this is funny because last night we talked about biting.
Right.
How? See, I got new words. I know new things. How did it feel for you when other artists started to sample your work?
You mean to bite?
To bite.
No. See, old school is the bite. Sample is the new bite. That's what it is. But the sample is the new bite because you're getting paid for it. Back in the days, you didn't get paid for somebody biting your style.
Yeah.
But I think it feels good to me because, when we were cutting records back in the days, we were taking pieces of songs because we wanted that contribution to what it is that we were creating. So I think that artists are doing it like that now. Now, thanks to my guy, Biz, God bless him, his album was the album that broke this whole thing wide open with the sampling laws changing. And the lawyer here will be able to tell you that, So the game changed when Biz did Just a Friend, and he didn't clear it. You know what I mean? And so now everybody started wanting their share of this music that at one time they said was a novelty. It
Yep.
was not going to even last, you know? So it became interesting to see what it turned into. And then when I got sampled so much, me and Rick, the fascinating thing about the song is it's only me and him. There is nothing else in the song. There's no, I'm the beat, I'm the change, I'm the lyrics, and he's the lyrics, and the engagement is just that simple.
Yep.
So for it to be that simple and for it to have that kind of impact, it shows you the power of the spirit. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then for somebody to take that sample and use it in different little pieces, just different little pieces all over, it made me feel that is what you're supposed to do. Now, it turned into a money thing,
Yeah.
but that's not why we did it. It just became that because the game became so financially, you know, big that we had no choice but to obviously get compensated. And a lot of artists, just for the record, a lot of fellow hip hop artists, we never charged them
Yeah.
because that wasn't hip hop. You know, just so you know. Now, some people, obviously, you know, you got to bless us a little something.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
And
little blessing never hurts.
I want to talk to you, Dre. So you have produced some of the most recognizable beats, really in the last 20 years.
Talk about it.
Talk about it. Don't make me preach. I'm from Alabama. You see, when you hype me up like that, I gotta go into
Can I
my
get a
preacher
witness?
in my preacher mode. You're on the production and the artist side. I would love to hear about as you started producing beats. Really, you know, Doug, you talked about I made the beat and we put it together. You're making beats modern day. Was there one where it hit and you were like, "This is special"?
You know, until you hear what the artist, first of all, the beat is so important, right? I can remember
People would argue that's the whole song.
Yeah, so I can remember Fat Joe saying in the studio, like, yo, I could be saying the illest shit ever, but if the beat is trash, it's never gonna reach him. And Joe used to always say the first thing you hear is the beat, which is true. Like, you could take a record like Black Rob, whoa, the minute you heard that, you were like, what the, you know what I mean? To me, the artist is so important because what they do with the music, the really talented songwriters, like we work with so many, but what 50 Cent and The Game did with the Hate It or Love It beat, even though the beat is crazy and we loved it when we did it, but what they did with that record and the picture that they painted, that's what made it a hit, right? But I can remember one time when we did All the Way Up with Fat Joe, I can remember when the beat was done, he was like, this is it. There's no lyrics on it yet. He ain't write it yet. There was no hook. There was nothing. He's like, this is it. This is going to be bigger than Lean Back. He was talking crazy. So me and Cool was just like, yo, Joe, you got to chill. Like, bigger than Lean Back? Are you nuts? I'm like, yo, it's a cool beat. It's a cool beat. And he was like, no, you don't understand it. This is it. This is it. This is it. And that's the one time I could like remember just us cooking something up with the discussion being like, this is it, and it being right. Because, you know, it's a bunch of times niggas is in the studio like, yo, this is it, and it ain't it. You know what I'm saying? But the All the Way Up record was definitely one of those moments in our career because Cool and I, we were trying to tamper Joe Crack down. Like, we were just trying to, yo, chill, it ain't it. But then, you know, once he got the hook put on it and he did his verse and then Remy did her thing, we was like, oh, hold up, this feels like it could be something. And you know, it's like 4 platinum, you know what I mean? And to this day, so yeah, that's one of the times for sure.
I love that. I love that so much. And one of the things I also know about production is that it has changed a lot over time.
Oh yeah.
And you know, there's been different tools, different instruments. How has that process evolved for you? Are you still doing stuff the way you used to do it early on?
If you don't evolve, you die, right? Me and Cool, we have this phrase that when you get fossil ears, when your ears become fossils, that means you out of touch. And a lot of it has to do with the sonics of your production. And with technology, you know, the sonics change. So when Kool and I first started producing, our first keyboard was an ASR 10. And we bought that keyboard because, you know, we were huge hip hop fans, but we're huge R&B fans too. Like Kool and I started in an R&B group. The reason we started making beats.
Hold on.
So
You were in an R&B group?
Kool and I and two of our friends, we created an R&B group, Dre. Right? That's how we started, right? You know what I mean? And what happened with us was no one would make beats for the group. And if we got with other producers, they would charge us and we didn't have the money for it. So what Kool and I did, I was telling her like, yo, like we're gonna give this dude $1,500. We might as well just save up the money and buy our own shit and we can make 1,000 beats. We'll just teach ourselves how to do it, right? So that's what we did. And our first keyboard was an ASR 10. And we bought that because RZA did Wu-Tang's first album on an ASR 10 and D'Angelo did Brown Sugar on an ASR 10. So we're like, this is perfect. And both those albums were like very, very, very instrumental for me and Kool, just our life. Like, you know what I'm saying? So we bought an ASR 10. We started making beats. We started selling the beats to the drug dealers in Miami because they had their record companies trying to clean, you know what I mean? And so we're going to mix the records and we're telling the engineer, yo, man, make our shit sound like Puff Daddy shit or Dr. Dre, man. It ain't knocking the way it's supposed to. And we kept stressing the engineer out and he just got mad. He turned around and he goes, yo, get rid of that bullshit keyboard and go get you an MPC 3000 and sample the motherfucking drums that they using. And me and Kool looked at each other like, okay. We stopped using the ASR 10, got an MPC, started sampling those drums, and like overnight, our beats started sounding better. More people started like, you know, fucking with us. And that, you know, being able to adjust with technology and the sound is very important because at the end of the day, if your shit ain't knocking in the club or in the whip or whatnot, you're not gonna win. So right now, you know, we use Fruity Loops as far as making our beats. We've also signed, you know, a bunch of young producers, like a couple of them have gone on to win Grammys with us. And what we make sure we do, we stay very in tune with the younger generation.
Yep.
So because it's vice versa, we give you game and we pick up on game too. That way we always stay in touch with what's going on.
Iron sharpen iron and men sharpen men.
So yeah, that's what we've done. We've always been able to adapt and understand. A lot of the producers from back in the day, they still dope. It's just you get so caught up in using what you're using and you're so locked in and you reach a certain age that you don't have the patience to learn some new shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah.
And everything is about change. Change is inevitable.
Yep.
So if you don't change, you either get caught behind it, you know, or it passes you. Like meaning like change is coming. No matter what you do, change is gonna happen. So as he's saying, as a producer, that's definitely true. Teddy Riley used to use that keyboard too.
Oh yeah, the ASR 10 is, I still got it.
That was a classic. And then sometimes you could take that and combine it with something else and create something else new, you know? And to a point you said, necessity is the mother of invention.
For sure.
Because you probably would not have been what you became if you had everything you needed.
Oh yeah.
You see?
Yeah, you gotta be.
That's the interesting part of it. Like you would not have said, okay, well I want to make my own beats because these guys is charging so much. Because that's what happened with me. That's how I was able to own my masters in 84, 85. No artist had ownership of their masters, but I paid for my own records to be made because nobody was making the record the way I wanted to make it. So that's what made me make the show and do all of the different things that I did because I seen there was no way for me to get what I wanted to get from the classic producer who wanted to do it the way he seen it, but the drums didn't sound right. The keyboards, and then you would be arguing with these guys, and you're young.
You're paying
so they
them.
look at you, but they look at you like, yo, kid, look, I've been doing this long. I got this amount of Grammys. I got this amount of, credits. Listen to me. And you don't want to not listen to them, but you know what you know. And that sometimes is the greatest place to be, to create something new.
That's why I've grown to like love being told no or love being denied, because it forces you to be creative and adapt in the best way possible and create something new that they wasn't even thinking about too.
That's right.
Yep.
So every no or every denial that I have turned into something that I couldn't even imagine. And I'm sure what y'all just described is the same example of
That's
that.
how we created Lottie Dottie, because Rick could never win the MC contest.
Wow.
So he got with me, he said, Dougie, he said, yo, this is not, I'm good, but I don't know what the problem is. I said, don't worry, we'll win all of them after this. And we sat down, put this together, and after that, we won all the contests.
Come on now.
Crazy.
Wow.
All of them. When the record
I
came
believe
out,
it.
when the record came out, he was so serious about this. He said, look, I know we got the #1 record, but there's an MC contest up in the Bronx. He said, and it's $800. I said, you really want to go and take that $800? He said,
Listen.
please.
Listen, ain't too proud.
Yeah.
I went up there, we got up there, he said, like he was coming up there like, nah, you see who I got with me now? We taking all the money. So after we took the contest, I'm just explaining to you how sometimes some of the greatest creations come from the circumstances.
Yes.
Yep.
Pressure
know?
make diamonds.
Yep.
It's like the circumstance and what's going on in the culture.
Yep.
And then that drives the technology. But then that new technology then goes back into the culture. Because even like, going from where you started to then, it's like Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
And then you think about how many new producers there are because they felt like Fruity Loops was so accessible.
Yep.
And maybe they were like, I don't know, keyboard, like I can't afford that. I don't even have the few $100s for that. Or I don't even know how to approach it. But Fruity Loops, all right, I could download this and figure this out.
Yep. Accessibility changes things.
Everything.
for sure.
When something is massively available. And it's funny because this concept around, I'll just do it myself, right? I'm gonna do it myself, I'm gonna own my stuff, I'm gonna manage it. Talk to us about that process as like a modern, independent artist.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the story. In 2020, I was on the brink of quitting music because I tried every traditional route that you can imagine. Drop a mixtape, do 3 music videos for 3 singles, and then you become Drake. I ain't become Drake, right? So I'm like, damn, how do people, like I said earlier, people keep telling me no. People keep saying, hey, I don't know yet. And I was low on cash too. And this was the start of the pandemic as well. So I'm talking to the videographer. I'm like, hey, can we shoot some videos? Because I'm starting to see that visual content is really bubbling. I knew it was gonna become what it is now. I started to see it bubbling. He said, all right, $600 a video. And I'm like, that's kind of steep, my boy. But I have
And
an
you
iPhone.
paying for it yourself.
I didn't pay anything. I had an iPhone. iPhone has a 4K camera. I went to B&H, got a tripod, went outside, put my phone on a tripod, started shooting my own music videos, started shooting my own content. Because again, my back was against the wall and I needed to make something of myself too. And once I started doing that, I was able to like edit the videos I wanted to, create my own vision, create my own treatment, do all these things, and then fall in love with film whilst making really dope music. Threw it on TikTok and it started blowing up. 1 million views here, 1 million views there, 2 million views there, and now I'm gaining a fan base without spending any type of money, all because I decided to have the audacity to just do it myself. I didn't know how to mix. I stopped going to the studio because if I'm gonna be spending $200 per mix, why don't I spend $200 to get Ableton, the program, and then learn how to mix myself? You know, go on YouTube, learn what an EQ is, learn what compression is, learn.
YouTube is a college, okay?
Yeah,
you can get a full.
I got a PhD in YouTube University.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so.
I fixed my water heater. It's fine.
There's so many things on that, but having that moment where my back was against the wall, and then being real with myself as well, saying, okay, what can you control? All these things are happening to you, but what can you do about it? And then after being real with myself, I saw that I could do everything about it. And to this day, I'm still doing everything about it. And then teaching other artists how to do everything about it too.
No, that's amazing. I mean, I could tell you what your story, of course, Doug's story. You know, Quincy Jones told me and Cool, chase the music, the money will come. Chase the music, the money will come. And he told us this after we were, you know, successful and whatnot. And then, you know, when we thought about it, it's all we've been doing since as a kid. When I heard, you know, Earth, Wind and Fire, has been chasing the music. The older I got and the more that I could do with music, I would do it immediately. So if I'm in middle school, I could join the choir. Okay, well, I'm in the choir. I'm in high school, I could join the band and the choir too. I'm doing that, you know what I'm saying? And what's crazy about your story is, and my story and Doug's story, my dream was to be on stage dancing and singing like Jodeci and Boyz II Men and all that stuff. I never had a plan B. That was my plan A. And I chased plan A so hard that plan B created itself, which was me being a producer. And at the end of the day, I still ended up singing on records. I'm singing with Beyonce on a record we produced for. I'm singing with Lil Wayne. All that comes with it, you know what I mean? So I think it's so important that we, you know, that we explain to, you know, the younger generation, the kids, that, you know, you just gotta go hard, super hard after what it is your main goal and main dream is. And if you really, really are serious about it, and if it's really, really in your spirit, for real, that road is gonna take you where you deserve to be.
And without thinking about the result either. Like when you got your head down and not thinking about.
Oh, you gotta be able to thug it out.
For real.
You gotta be able to accept eating ramen noodles. You know, I got 10 different recipes for ramen noodles. Trust me, you know what I'm saying?
So you have been a huge advocate for recognizing musical contributions as an asset class and valuing them as we do any other financial asset class. Tell me about how you got to that place and a little bit of a story about what the future of catalog sales and things like that looks like with that perspective.
Okay, so how me and Megan met is because I was I went to Davos last year for the World Economic Forum out there in Switzerland. Yeah.
Well, that's big in itself for you to say that. I mean, you're saying it so casual and cool, but that's not a normal go-to.
Yeah, man.
And you led that, Dre.
Yeah, so I was asked to sit on a panel last year. The CEO of Citibank couldn't make it, and the person moderating this panel happened to be my friend. So he called me, told me the whole spiel, and I knew all about the WEF because I watched CNN and MSNBC ever since Barack was running for president in 08, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm coming. Another motivation for me going out there was because we were being approached by several hedge funds, you know, inquiring about purchasing our catalog. And they were offering us a 25x multiple. One guy was offering a 30x. And I would just, the hustler in me,
Talk to him.
If they trying to give me 30x for this, they gotta be making 1,000x. And I told my attorney, Renee, I was like, listen, I got invited to go to this World Economic Forum thing. Let me go out there and see if I could figure out why they keep hitting you up about our catalog. So anyway, I went out there, long story short, I found out why. And I found out that Web3 technology was going to explode the catalog business, right? So I was like, okay, now I get it, right? So I partnered with some people, and another thing was I felt like Davos needed some culture, you know what I mean? Because what I also learned was I went out there and got that information, A lot of my peers didn't get that information and have gone on to sell their catalogs, which is great. God bless
Right.
them. You know, I pray they invest their money wisely. But 5 years from now, they're all going to regret it. I don't care if they got 100 M's, 200 M's. 5 years from now, they're going
And
to
their
regret
catalog
that.
is still going to be making somebody else money.
One song is going to make that 100 M's. One song, right? So
Wow.
yeah. So
I'm listening. I know that.
Yeah. So, you know, part of my experience out there was saying that, listen, man, this is where all the decision makers are, right? And our ceiling, which is way higher than it was when Dougie Fresh started, right now is, you know, we get to meet the CEO or the president of the company.
That's right.
But when I was in Davos, I was meeting the people who funded the company, who paid the CEO.
Damn.
And that's who we need to be sitting at the table with,
Right.
because at the end of the day, our impact on culture is massive. Our buying power is massive. And artists talk about themselves as brands, which is great, but they're still doing deals with major brands,
Yep.
bringing value to the major brand and taking
Absolutely.
a check, right? We gotta like take it to the next level, right? So my opinion and view, which is now starting to like resonate, and I'm not saying I invented it or anything, but it's good to see other people speaking the same language, is that culture is an asset class, and artists and songwriters and producers should be able to use their art, their catalog, their scripts. You know, we got a screen Gilder. What's the thing right now? There's a strike right now in
Writers
Hollywood.
Oh, the writers.
The
Oh, the
writers are
Writers
getting
Guild.
jammed up legend because of the streaming, which artists in the music, on the music side, are feeling the same burn,
That's right.
because the streaming companies made a deal with the record companies, gave them a percentage of the subscription fees, and they just decided to make up what the number for each stream is worth,
Right.
without us at the table.
And say, take that.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? And you know, we seen Snoop the other day at Milken go crazy about that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I view culture as an asset class, and we're working to where, like, as a kid, I loved Outkast, and anything associated with the Dungeon family and Outkast, I would spend my money on. I don't care if the artist was terrible, but if 3 Stacks was featured on one song on the album, I'm buying the album, because I was so invested into
it.
Outkast. If I had an iPhone back when I was a kid in the 90s, and there was an invest now button that I could invest in Outkast as a stock, I would have put all my money into it. And if it didn't go up or down, I wouldn't care. We just, as a fan, I would have done anything to support my favorite group. But I would have got paid a legend, because in 2001, those guys sold 10 million albums, right? Now imagine from the artist side, you no longer have to just depend on the record company. Now you have all of your fans investing in you, whether it's, and you get to create a relationship with your fans. You get to monitor where it's all coming from. You get to grow your community, you know what I'm saying? And you get that one-on-one relationship with them. And you get to create real generational wealth, because what I've learned is how the people in banking create generational wealth is not through their salary, it's through funds.
Yep.
And it's through the carry of funds.
There it is.
And that's what I think, you know, we're creating that now. And, you know, I really see 5, 6, 7 years from now, the future of music, entertainment is gonna be all of us as creatives creating funds together, allowing, and us as creatives being part of the carry, and our partners are no longer the record companies or the publishing companies. No,
It's our
our
fans.
partners are big venture, you know, people in venture, big, you know, all the people who fund the entertainment industry. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's my view on
Yeah.
brands.
Beautiful
and
view,
things
I mean,
like
brother.
that.
I love everything you said Although I will add, as someone still, sitting at a record label, I think there's a world where the record label exists
No, you
in
can't.
that structure because the record
has
label is
to.
part of the machine
That's
to help connect the dots so
you
that the artist has that brand power, so that they have the ability to be
for sure.
in that asset class.
My view of it is I believe in embracing. I don't believe in tearing things down. But what we do have to do is create the opportunity for you to do something outside of the system. And what happens is you force the system to bend.
Adapt.
Yes, and you bring the leverage back to the artist. If the idea is to tear down record companies and publishing companies, you're never gonna win. It's never gonna happen. So with me, I would love for a songwriter to have the opportunity to buy back their catalog and put it in a fund and get a multiple for their catalog. It might not be a 20x, it might be a 7x, but guess what? You retain a percentage of your catalog and a nice percentage of your catalog.
Over
and now
time.
it sits in a fund with other art, whether Basquiat's, whether scripts. And now you can
Absolutely.
sit in the fund and say, I have a piece of a Basquiat. I have my catalog. I'm sitting in a fund with Cool and Dre's catalog. I'm sitting in a fund with Piff's catalog. I'm sitting in a fund with Dougie Fresh's catalog. And now I have a
Put
piece
me in
of
that
all
fund,
that.
please.
Yeah.
Put me in it.
You know what I'm saying? But then I would, at the same time, look at a publishing company and I would partner with the publishing company and say, okay, help me grow these catalogs because at the same time we're gonna work together.
Right.
What I'm
You know what I
hearing
mean?
here is, at the end of the day, the friction comes when there's misaligned incentives, right? When it's somebody has to lose,
Yeah.
right? If the artist wins, the labels lose, or the other way around. And I think forward thinking would be like, how can we create wins all around?
Yep.
Maybe some people win more than others, but nobody is set up to lose.
For sure.
But I do think
Yeah.
in between that, there's gonna be an overcorrection where artists want to
Always.
be the winner and the labels lose and the companies lose. So I think it's gonna take that 4 to 5 years to get to
Market
that
cycles.
point.
I mean, but that's where technology comes in and makes it amazing. You know what I'm saying? Because technology has allowed the new generation artists, they buy a laptop, they make the beat in their bedroom, they record the song in their bedroom, they upload it to the DSPs, they take their iPhone, shoot their own video, upload it to YouTube, and get it popping.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
for my
with no
music.
there's no record company, there's no publishing company involved. Now you put yourself in a position where you can sit down and negotiate with a record company. You get your amazing attorney to represent you.
That's right.
To negotiate something that works,
Yeah.
for you. But
I think the
Yeah.
great thing too is, we have multiple channels to get music out there. You don't have to be with a major label. If that's not your pathway, you could be independent. Playing devil's advocate again on the major label side. If you go with the major label, the label is investing a ton in capital, and they're investing money and they're investing resources with their team.
Are they
and you
doing
look at
are they
like
doing
this,
360 deals?
and labels do 360 deals, but most labels on the 360 side, they're providing something on that side of it too. So if they're collecting on merch, they're helping you with the merch. If there's a piece of touring, they're helping to fund your tour, because everybody knows when you start off touring, you're not making any money. The labels will come in and say, I'm going to invest in you touring so you can get to the point of making money. So it's a give and take, but it's a different avenue than what another artist might take. They
Yeah.
might have an incredibly successful career being completely independent their entire career. So I think there's a world where they all exist together. You have winners on all sides.
Yep.
And then going back to the assets, once you sell your asset, your catalog, you still need it to continue generating money for whoever is owning it, whoever's in that fund. So if it's a label that's still working it or some other entity, someone has to continue pushing those assets, because once you spend $100 million to purchase the asset, you know, you
gotta
want to get
make
to
it
you.
You-
Like you said,
you gonna work
they
it.
must be expecting to
Yeah.
get 1,000x. How are they going to get to that 1,000x?
Oh yeah. Well,
You
I'll
gonna
tell you. I'll
grind
tell
it
you.
out.
You look at what happened with this producer that worked with Rihanna decided to do a limited release, an NFT release. He didn't ask permission from nobody. He just did it, right? And it sold out in no time. And it made like $69,000, so call it $70,000. But the NFT drop impacted her entire catalog by 17%.
Positively.
These, yes. There is a new way
Yeah.
to market and promote music
Yep.
outside of the traditional way of doing things. But at the same time, you embrace the foundation, which is your publishing company. Listen, if I go tell the CEO of Universal Music Publishing I'm buying back my catalog, she's gonna be upset about it, right? Because, you know, a lot of the publishing companies feel like you shouldn't do that. But I'm gonna be the same guy coming back to you to do a deal on the exact same catalog that you just got paid for, to now do it on an administrative level at a lower percentage. So you're still gonna make money off the same catalog that you just sold and got money for. That's how you work with the traditional system. But you control that relationship. You set your price instead of you having to sit there and, you know, give up 75% of your shit or 50%. We have to recognize that the time that, I don't want to get too deep, but the time that we're living in right now, a lot of people are trying to compare what's going on with technology and NFTs and all this stuff, blockchain, and they compare it to what happened with the internet boom back then. It's more like the Industrial Revolution. The time that we're living in right now
Glad you said that.
is the very beginning of what the next 100 years is gonna look like. And the people that were in a position to capitalize off of the Industrial Revolution, their families are still wealthy to this day. And if we know that what we create, whether it's music, film,
Fashion.
if you're an athlete on that court, putting on a show, you know what I'm saying? That's content, that's art, and we know that that's an asset that hedge funds are coming after us now, giving us multiples of 30x because they know what's going on, because they understand that we are living in the very beginning of a new industrial revolution.
Yeah.
We can't just sit back and not participate in that, because I'm gonna make sure my kids gonna have way more than what I have now, and I'm blessed. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important
I
that
agree.
we
The doors
get
of the
the
church are
knowledge out
open.
there. Yeah, no, it's
'Cause
super.
Dre is
no,
you're
it's
preaching.
it's super, and I got love for the record companies because they changed my life. All right, my gift from God did that, but I have a lot of great relationships with a lot of people in the industry and publishing, and that's all great. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna be. They fucked around and let me in. You know, and the first thing I did was, yo, let's go to Davos. There's some shit popping off.
Like the spook that sat by the door.
Yeah, and it's no way. I'm not gonna be the guy that just gets the info and keep it to myself.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that's where we at with it.
No, I appreciate you
was
doing
good.
that.
That's where we
That's
at with
perfect.
it.
So we talk a lot about, and I want to say maybe Dougie, you were talking about like when something feels right and you know it, and your gut instinct, and how you put out, you know, how you craft your music. How do y'all manage dealing with your gut and what you think is good versus this concept of like the machine, right? I need to get quantity out. I need to like put the data, right? If you release on this day, if you release at this time, if your music has this sort of beat and like literally down to the numbers, how do you balance that in this industry of artistry versus a machine?
I think that you have to stick with the basics. And
Tell me more.
Meaning, spiritually, when you make music, you know how you feel about it. The word honesty is a very important ingredient in music. Without that honesty, sometimes you can't create what's real for you. Now, to me, if an artist has a hit record and he doesn't like that record, he hates it.
Yep.
I think he put himself in prison for the rest of his life.
And I've heard of that happening too.
Right, because he's singing, if his song said, bing, bing, boom, bong, 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 right, and he gotta sing this, and everybody's like, look, it's #1 around the world, I'm telling you, man, and he did it, and he really didn't feel that way or didn't want to sing that song, and he's singing that song, and everybody wants to hear that song, but he know in his spirit that is not what's real to him. Now it's a hit, but that's not what's real to him. I think that for me is the deal breaker as an artist because and this is my perspective.
Sure.
It doesn't mean it's everybody else's, but my integrity and my honesty in the creation of what I'm creating has to be pure. It has to be fearless, and it has to be genuine. So for me, that's the base of everything that I create from. Now, after I create from that base, whether you like the song or he likes the song, that's your opinion on how you feel about it. There's a lot of #1 songs that we never liked, and they just played them on the radio, but
Right.
they're still #1. But when you're the creator, you have to live with that creation. So you want to create something that you feel honest about, that you feel is true for you. And if it's not true for you and you have to live with that, that's a crazy place to be. So now you combine that with the marketing and promotional team and say the A&R guy don't like the song. Like, I'll give you a quick example. Marvin Gaye was making the album, What's Going On?
Yep.
Berry Gordy told him, yo, you're about to destroy your career. You're a crooner, you're a singer, girls love you. You don't need to make that, just make the love songs. They'll love you, you'll go out there, you'll keep making money. He said, nah, man, but I feel this in my spirit that I need to make this song because there's something about this song. Berry Gordy said, look, you're about to destroy your career. And then he said, I want to put a hat on my face. He said, what, are you crazy?
Not a hat.
Are you trying to destroy your career?
Whoa.
Barry Gordy was in LA. He was in Detroit. He said, okay. He said, okay, I'm gonna give you a shot. He said, give me a shot. He said, if this don't work, we'll go back to what you said. He said, all right, you're destroying your career. Album came out, one of the fastest selling albums on Motown, and it is looked at as probably the #1 classic of all times on Motown, but not just Motown, but in the world of music. That album is held in high esteem because of the honesty, the creation, the vulnerability. And Barry Gordy said, well, look, I made a mistake. What you want? You know what I'm saying? And it was cool that he said that because he admitted that he didn't see it. So I think that an artist cannot go into his emotions on feeling if the marketing and the promotional team don't always see what you see. The artist sees what you cannot see. That is the gift of the artist. He sees what don't exist and make it come into existence. So if you're gonna stop me from being the artist, now you can help me, you can guide me. That's where producers come in, that's where different writers come in, and even an A&R that know how to communicate to that artist. But if they were to stop Marvin Gaye from making What's Going On, the world would be a different place right now.
I wonder how many things we've lost to that we don't even know about, that we never got to see, never got to hear.
Prince talked about this all the time.
Yeah.
His philosophy is the same as mine. I'll just leave it here, is that once we make the creation in the studio and we like it and we know it's good and it's a hit to us, it is. What happens when the label get it, when the marketing and promotional team get it, we really don't have that much of a say-so over it because that's us passing the ball. But we know what we created, and we felt good. We felt honest about the creation. And that's all an artist could really do.
Yeah.
So I'm an artist during the content era, right? And the goal of all of these platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music, is to have users use their app as long as possible.
Yep.
And what they encourage the creators to do is give them a bunch of things that these users can consume. But because of that, it's forcing artists to create music too quickly without really paying attention to the quality of it or the soul of it, like you found a lot of back in the day, and it's kind of diluting the market. That's why I'll say this: like, I'm a data guy. I am big on data because it does inform what people are liking it, how many people are liking it. But what data doesn't inform is the demographics, but it doesn't inform the psychographics. Demographics tell you what age these people are from, where they're from, their race and whatever. But the psychographics say, who are these people? What do they love? What are their dreams? What do they care about? And when you pay attention to that, then as an artist, you're able to create from that place, from your soul, where you can talk about actual things that humans are going through. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that's my opinion on the whole data-centric era of it. I think where there's a lot of focus on the numbers, and there's what's being lost is that the numbers come from actual people. Mm-hmm. It's not robots. There's actual people behind these numbers, and I think more creatives in general, not even just artists, need to dial it back and like really remember that we're all people.
I think the fans know.
And the fans know.
The fans know when an artist is being honest and truthful, right? Mm-hmm. And the really, really great artists, our legends, are usually the ones that have consistently been themselves from day one. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean they're the exact same person on the second album or the third album, because Andre 3000 from Outkast evolved, but he's always been true to himself, right? Mm-hmm. And because of technology, you just have to be willing to embrace it. You don't have to let it dictate how you make your music. You don't have to go into the graphs to figure out, oh, they like this song because of this, so now I'm gonna do this. You don't have to do that, but you should be willing to embrace it, to be able to say, okay, let me not be a dinosaur, and know that let me jump on Instagram or let me jump on TikTok, to however comfortable I feel on there, just so I could get my music out there. Because at the end of the day, if you're making music and you want people to hear it, you got to be able to like embrace the technology that's going to get it out there, right?
It's combining the technology with great art.
Yep.
That's what's going to prevail. That's what you see rise to the top.
Yep. Always.
There are artists that try to engineer their creativity in a way that's going to meet the current data, and they're not going to last. You might get some attention on a song, but if you're not a real artist, if you don't have the real artistry behind it, it's not going to continue. Yep. You're not going to be able to get the next song. You're not going to be able to get the fans to actually engage with you as a person, as a brand, as an artist, as a creative, because they weren't connecting with you in the first place. They're connecting with the trend you created. Mm-hmm. But where you can make it sort of like a superpower is when you have a great artist with the talent, and then you combine the data, the analytics that you're getting, so you could say, I see how I'm engaging with my fans, but there's something that's not connecting in this one space that they're not getting from me that I can tweak and I can adjust. Or it might be, I didn't realize my fans are going up in, wherever. They're going up in Berlin. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. We got to go to Berlin.
Do a show in Berlin.
We got to go do a show in Berlin. Let me touch my people over there. They love me. So it's like,
it's an enhancement.
It should be used as an enhancement to existing talent and art.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, it's incredible, because you can have such an exponential reach as an incredible artist. But in the other way, I think you're going to be left in the dust. You know, you'll end up being the dinosaur if you're trying to adjust your art to the technology. Because at the end of the day, none of those companies, like if you're talking about TikTok wasn't created to enhance music. That wasn't the purpose. It's just like a byproduct of how they saw people engaging and using the platform. And it's like, oh, okay, people are using this for music. But that wasn't the intent. They didn't create it for that. So it's not going to necessarily enhance the art. It's just a byproduct of how people started using the site.
It's a distribution channel.
Exactly.
I think it has to be art. It has to be art and technology, not technology and art. I think the art has to stay at the root of the creation, and then you utilize technology to enhance and to expand. The reach and statistics and all of these things are really good to use because there's a science in that. So to use that science and the artistic talent combined in a very good way, it's the best marriage ever.
Nicole, when you were talking, you brought up a word that comes up a lot, brand. I would love to hear a little bit about when you learned about that business aspect of music, but then also what are some of the best things you've seen artists do when it comes to their brand? Like what are some of the things that you've seen of like, oh, this is really getting it right?
I think it starts with the authenticity, being true to who you are. And, you know, there are a lot of creatives that have multiple interests, but if they're just pushing for, you know, more checks and it's not something that they're interested in, the fans are going to recognize that you're not really connected with what you're doing. You know, if you start doing, you know, I don't know, makeup, but they don't see you wearing makeup because it's not really what you're into. They're going to pick up on that and they're not going to buy your makeup line. But I think it's great when artists are able to tap into all the things they're interested in. You know, we have artists that are really into fashion, and you see how their merch lines or their offshoots on the fashion side start to really take off, and it gives them an opportunity to have sort of like an evergreen campaign in a way, so that when they're not recording, they're still engaging with their fans with their fashion line or, you know, their merch line beyond just, this is my album cover on my shirt.
In a consistent way.
In a consistent way.
In a genuine way.
And I think it helps too for, as a brand for an artist, if you want to have the flexibility of just constantly evolving with your art, when the fans are connected to you as an artist and as a brand, you can evolve and they're always going to come back. You know, you could go from, you know, putting out a hip hop project to doing something that's more R&B leaning, but the fans were connected to you in the first place, so they're open for you. Like I'm here for it. You want to shift it up? I love you.
Right,
So,
be creative.
So be creative because I'm following you on your journey with where you're going, and it connects back. It makes sense because I remember in a song you sampled an R&B record, so I know you're into it.
Like that's his thing or her thing.
Yeah, like I get it. So I think it could be an incredibly useful tool when artists are being authentic about the things that they want to branch off into.
I want to talk about a topic that nobody has heard about. You haven't thought about it, you haven't seen it on the news, you haven't seen it anywhere. AI. It has come up a ton in the music industry. When you think about one of our good friends of the firm, Dan Runcie, who runs a podcast called Trapital, talks about the business of music. And one of the questions he was thinking about is, where does the value of music come from? Is it from the artist itself, or is it just from the music? Because clearly AI can produce the music, we've all heard it. Should we shun AI? Should we lean into it as our creative copilot? How should we think about a relationship between the music industry and AI? And I would love to hear how you all are potentially thinking about, you know, Nicole, Dre, Piff, Dougie, on how can we create an innovative, productive relationship between artificial intelligence and music?
So here's the thing with everything that's been prohibited, it's always going to be sold even more because it's prohibited, right? So I think adapting to what's inevitable, and that's what AI is. It's inevitable. It's not just with music. It's with all kinds of things. And as Dre said, it's the start of the Industrial Revolution. AI is helping solving so many problems. We can't just do away with it. Just have to adapt to it. The way that I'm adapting to it, one, it saves me a lot of money as a creative entrepreneur, where I can go into a Mid-Journey and then type in a dope prompt and get some artwork so I can use for my album cover.
Is
Or I can use-
ChatGPT writing your songs?
No.
Okay, I'm just checking.
And do they get writers?
No, but
Do they get
even with
writers?
even with ChatGPT, AI is as good as the prompts, and the prompts is like what you put into it.
Yeah.
You know, it taught me so much about even more about the legal aspects of music. I could put a contract into ChatGPT and it will translate it in layman's terms. Probably not as good as a lawyer, because you still need that human. You know what I mean? Yet, but for me, who couldn't necessarily afford to have a lawyer on retainer, at least I can use this tool to help me out with this.
Yeah.
And just that's how I've been using AI, and business-wise and creatively. I still don't know how I'll be able to use it for music just yet, but I do know there's tools for me to mix and master songs with AI right now, or splice up stems using AI too, and that's been helpful for me too when it comes to creation as well. So adapting without losing the integrity is important, but I've just been on the side of just adapting to it.
I've used AI to dig for samples. And Dougie Fresh, you'll appreciate this. I used to go to Blue Note, go to thrift stores in all kind of small cities, finding the records, and me and Cool would bring our
Digging in the
turntable,
crates.
set up, and we just dig in. We hear something, we like, all right, put this to the side, put this to the side. Then the next wave of digging was I'm on YouTube, and I would be sitting on YouTube for hours just going through, just obscure bands or whatnot. I would, just go through it until I find something. And I've found a shitload of samples that we've used in music. I used the ChatGPT and said, I typed in, list 10 unpopular soul bands from the 70s that's similar to the OJs. And then boom, 10 bands come up. List me 20 of these 10 bands' most popular songs. Boom, they come up, and then I look, I go search it. If I hear something I like, cool. If not, then, but that's how I've used it to like search for music and dig for
A
samples.
creative copilot.
Yeah, you just,
It
makes it
helps you.
easier.
It
Yeah.
helps
Makes
you
it
along
easier.
in the process.
you have
makes it so
to, you
much
have
easier.
to embrace it. You just gotta embrace. You can't fear it. You have to embrace it.
And I can't be against something that saves me time and money.
Yeah, and then, but with the voices using, it has no soul. I was watching a clip of The Breakfast Club, and Charlamagne, the guy was like, "Yo, it's cool, but it just sounds like dead people rapping because there's no soul." Like, you know what I'm saying? You can never replace the spirit and soul of a. There's no way AI could give us Tyrone from Erykah Badu off the cuff, live with her people. It's impossible to replace that. You know what I mean? We just got to pray that people don't get used to that as what they like.
It's the sound.
And then
That-
start looking
that-
at the authentic shit as like, nah, I like what this
That's-
sounds like.
But I think that's where live performance is always going to help to
Yeah.
prevent that, because like I remember the first time I saw Prince perform live, and it was the first time it really connected for me that everything I was hearing in that moment, I had never heard from, a CD, an MP3, not even vinyl. It was a lot, like, I was like, this is a whole different, like, dimension of experience and hearing. So as long as we have that real connection, those platforms for that type of actual engagement that is real and soul and human and connected, you're always going to recognize the difference. And I don't think you can replace it. I don't want to replace it, but I do embrace all technology, if it's AI, to assist and make things easier, faster, it helps us come up with new innovations even because you're able to move more quickly, but it can't replace us.
Well, that's our time. Again, so grateful, so grateful, so grateful, so grateful.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
me.
joining us.
Thank
I
you.
have loved talking about the ups and downs, the future, the past. And again, my hope is that this conversation inspires somebody to do something, to change something, to build something, to try something. And I'm just really grateful for the time we got to spend together. So thank you.
Thank you.
And you are
Thank
free
you.
to go.
Like a light bulb, been keeping it 50 times too. I be mindful of people going through life who not at my shoes. Now I finally got the move.